Good evening and welcome to this October 28, 2024 meeting of the Lake Bluff Village Board of Trustees. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Cole.
Here.
Trustee Fisher.
Here.
Trustee Hatch.
Here.
Trustee Ryder.
Here.
Trustee Freed and Rappin are absent tonight. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Please stand and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is our awards and proclamation, and specifically our first proclamation is designating the month of October 2024 as Dysautonomia Awareness Month. Whereas dysautonomia is a group of medical conditions that results in a malfunction of the autonomic nervous system, which is responsible for automatic bodily functions such as respiration, heart rate, blood pressure, digestion, temperature control, and more. And whereas dysautonomia impacts over 70 million people around the world and includes conditions such as diabetic autonomic neuropathy, vasovagal syncope, pure autonomic failure, and postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And whereas dysautonomia impacts people of any age, gender, race, or background, including many individuals living in Lake Bluff. Whereas dysautonomia can be very disabling, and this disability can result in social isolation, stress on the families of those impacted, and financial hardship. And whereas some forms of dysautonomia can result in death, causing tremendous pain and suffering for those impacted and their loved ones. And whereas increased awareness about dysautonomia will help patients get diagnosed and treated earlier, save lives, and foster support for individuals and families coping with dysautonomia in our community. And whereas Dysautonomia International, a 501c3 non-for-profit organization that advocates on behalf of patients living with dysautonomia, encourages communities to celebrate Dysautonomia Awareness Month each October around the world. And whereas we see to recognize the contributions of medical professionals, patients, and family members who are working to educate our citizenry about dysautonomia in Lake Bluff. Now, therefore, I, Régis Charlot, President of the Village of Lake Bluff, Illinois, do hereby proclaim the month of October as Dysautonomia Awareness Month in the Village of Lake Bluff. We also have a proclamation designating October 23rd to October 31st, 2024, Red Ribbon Week. Whereas the most precious resources we have, our future leaders, are the children in our community. And whereas children face decisions about using alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, and other drugs as early as their elementary school years. And whereas alcohol and drug abuse in this nation have reached epidemic stages. And whereas it is critical that the adults in children's lives take the time to talk to them regularly about the risk of alcohol and other drugs, symbolized by the red ribbons in our community. Whereas parents, teachers, and community leaders play an important role in providing positive activities which will give youth the opportunity to choose healthy lifestyles. And whereas the Village of Lake Bluff, LEAD, CROIA, Speak Up coalitions, and our local schools are taking an active role in building assets in our youth and helping to teach them about positive decision-making. Now, therefore, I, Régis Charlot, Village President of the Village of Lake Bluff, Illinois, do hereby proclaim October 23rd to October 31st, 2024 as Red Ribbon Week in the village of Lake Bluff and urge all citizens to do what they can to help our youth make a commitment to a drug-free life. Thank you. Next on our agenda is the consideration of the minutes of the October 14, 2024 regular village board meeting. Is there a motion for these minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Are there any changes to note? It's a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you very much. Next is on our agenda are the non-agenda items. The village president and board of trustees allocate 15 minutes during this item for those individuals who would like the opportunity to address the village board of trustees on any matter not listed on the agenda. Each person addressing the village board of trustees is asked to limit their comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. Do we have someone today who would like to address the board? Please state your name and your address.
Pam Russell, 448 Gurney Avenue.
230 East Sheridan Place.
Luciana Titanic, 410 East Prospect Avenue.
Christine Claywitter, 130 East Sheridan Place.
Okay. You already know we're here today to talk with you all about the gas-powered leaf blower ban. I came here before you about a year ago. I had a thank you letter signed by about 25 residents. We were thanking you for the peace and quiet of that first year where the ordinance took place and saying it would be so great to have that year-round. We just completed the second year of this seasonal ban on the leaf blowers, and we can totally tell the difference between September 30th and October 1st. We can smell it, we can see it, we can hear it. So I'm coming here today asking you to please make that ordinance year-round. This is the time of year when they come back in full force. That noise is there all the time. And it would be just so great to have the peace that we have without those noises. We are a bird city. Would be nice to be able to open my window and listen to the birds. We are a tree city. Would be nice to be able to have lunch outside under my tree and not have to hear those noises or smell the fumes while I eat. Let's keep Lake Bluff peaceful and nature focused. I think that's one of the main reasons that so many people move here. We can get the peace, we can get the quiet, the nature aspect of it. There's this funny story of a friend of mine who came to visit from the city. I met him at the train station. He got out of the train and took a breath and he said, "Well, your town smells good." And I'm like, that's true. The town smells good. Let's keep the town smelling good. So I want to ask, we have several people here today. I want to ask a show of hands. Who would be in support of having this ban on the gas-powered leaf blowers 12 months out of the year? Thank you. Thank you very much. My friends have other perspectives to add as well, so I'll let them go.
Sure. Okay. Once again, my name is Chris Claywitter, and I would just like to propose that we look at the ordinance that Evanston, Illinois has set up. They have a permanent ban on gas leaf blowers since last year, and they do a bit of tracking of who comes into their city. They require landscapers to register. They also require that in the process of registering, they provide a copy of their licensing and insurance, and that they have specific limits on their policy for injury, property, and general liability. And I think that that's a good thing because it protects residents when they have people come onto their property. Many of the landscapers that I have noticed this summer who do not seem to abide by the regulations have unmarked trailer trucks. There's no phone number, there's no name, there's no contact information. You're forced.
Can I say one thing? They also seem to not care that you're going to call the police.
Yes, and I know that you're not supposed to approach landscapers, but I have. And of 3 that I have approached, each one of them, he's either said, you don't matter, or I wasn't aware, and then they pack up and they leave. The only way that you are able to report them is if you take a picture of their license plate. With Evanston, they have on their application the primary contact, they have the address, the phone number. It specifically says in their application for registration that you have been made aware of the ordinance in the city so that they're on notice what is expected of them. And I think that that's important. One of the things that I would like to see also is that our hours are tightened up a bit. I think we kind of use some loose language in stating our hours of operation. And I know that this isn't exactly, on the subject of whether or not to make the seasonal leaf ban permanent, but I think when you put vague terms like dusk, it creates confusion. I think if you have a list of operating hours that state 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. or whatever it's going to be, it's much clearer. And so I think we need to put very clear and concise information on the website and to put it where people can find it. Today, when I was looking at our website, I found that I had to do several different clicks to find out where the ordinance was. But on the home page, under residents, under the category that goes across, and there's resident, and you go back down to lawn and landscape maintenance, it doesn't even mention that there's a seasonal gas leaf blower ban. It has a generalized statement that says, landscaping equipment, whether gas or electric powered, may only be operated legally between the hours of, and then it states 2 sets of hours, 1 set for landscapers and 1 set for residents. That's confusing. And I think what we need to do is tighten up what we do with getting information about who's coming into our village, have contact information for them. I think we need to make it clear for residents what the operating hours are, and it should be easily obtained. So please make it a 12-year ban. Thank you.
So I'm going to be a little bit redundant with my comments because I'm not quick at editing what I've said. So we've enjoyed 2 summers with the improved quality of life associated with the seasonal ban on gas-powered leaf blowers. Now that they've started back up in force, generating not only noise but abundant clouds of dust, because nobody seems to realize that after a drought you shouldn't be blowing everything around, we asked the village to take the next step, the imposition of a year-round ban in 2025. Besides the obvious health and environmental benefits, a permanent ban will help reduce confusion related to enforcement and align with the recommendations made by the SEC to ramp up from the seasonal ban to a complete ban and to restricted hours. The city of Evanston implemented a complete ban 2 full seasons ago, and they're a good model for what's being communicated and enforced. We understand that the village and the SEC are going to begin discussions on this in early 2025, building on the gains made in the past 2 years and the demonstrated ability of most landscapers to adjust. We haven't fallen apart in the summers when this ban has been in place. We ask you to make Lake Bluff a leader by moving quickly from discussion to a year-round ban on gas-powered leaf blowers and to review and reduce the hours during which gas-powered equipment or commercial landscaping equipment can be used. Thanks.
And last but not least, I know we're short on time, they already have purchased the electric leaf blowers, so they have them. So,
That was a burden or a barrier
Right.
2 years ago, but they've made that transition.
exactly, so, and
I
let's,
would just like to say one more thing. I'd like to see that the exemptions are not extended. I think that they should be able to get in line with what everybody else is doing. And it shouldn't be a burden after 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. I believe that this policy will be coming in front of the SEC by the end of the year. So it is a conversation we'll have again. Thank you. Any more comment in the room?
Hi, everybody. Gary Doyle, 545 East Scranton Avenue. I just want to follow up on what they had to say. I live at Scranton and Maple. Like most of Lake Bluff, it's pretty dense. Houses are right next to each other. When I started working from home during the pandemic, I was shocked at the din. Sometimes 6 houses around me with gasoline-powered leaf blowers going, and it drove me insane. I thought I was going to scream. So I thought that the ban was the best thing to happen to Lake Bluff since the Criterium, since hot dogs at the train station, since the gazebo. It was just incredible. And as they mentioned, when it started up again, it was a real bummer. And I just want to second what they also said about enforcement, whether it's a summer ban or year-long, which I hope it is. But, and I encountered a number of landscapers which either flaunted the regulations, used gas-powered equipment, and claimed ignorance of the law, whether they're aware of it or not. So I think some kind of like you said, licensing or some kind of application is a really good idea. But I, just want to reiterate that a year-round ban would be fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Do we have anybody else who wish to make a comment tonight? Do we have anybody else online who make a comment?
We have a handful of folks online. If there's someone wishing to speak now, please raise your hand. You'll be recognized. No one is raising their hand.
Thank you. I thank you all for your comment and being active in our civic life. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
Moving forward to item number 6, that is the village board sets the order of a meeting. The village president and board of trustees will entertain requests from anyone present on the order of business to be conducted during the village board meeting. Again, we have only 2 items on the agenda tonight, and I did not receive any requests. Moving forward. Our next item is our village finance report, and that would be item 7A, our warrant report for October 15 to October 28, 2024. And that would be specifically for expenditure of village funds for payment of invoices in the amount of $196,853.80 for October 15 to October 28, 2024. Again, for a total of $196,853.80. A report is attached to the packet tonight. Do we have any questions about this warrant report on the board? I do not see any. It is a roll call.
We need motion.
Oh, we don't have a motion. Could I please have a motion for this report?
so moved.
Second.
Thank you. And it is a roll call. Clerk?
Trustee Fisher.
Aye.
Trustee Hatch.
Aye.
Trustee Ryder.
Aye.
Trustee Cole.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Next is our monthly finance report. Finance Director O'Connell, please.
Sure. Included in the packet for your consideration was the September 24 finance report and the monthly sales tax revenue on a cash basis for September fiscal year 25 is $299,182, which is $37,882, or 11.2% less than the fiscal year 24 cash basis receipts for the same period. Next month's revenues are, however, 4.4% greater, and the overall sales tax is trending approximately 6.6% higher than last fiscal year. General fund fiscal year 25 year-to-date revenues of $7,608,884 are $723,624 greater than the fiscal year 24 year-to-date revenues. Fiscal year 25 current expenditures are consistent with or less than budgeted for the total general fund, and the fiscal year-to-date expenditures of $4,639,943 are $109,741 greater than the expenditures for the same period in fiscal year 24.
Thank you. Can I please ask you, you name on the first bullet that the overall sales tax is trending approximately 6.6% higher. What is this due to specifically? Do you know? It's a pretty big jump compared to a growth, overall growth that would be around 3%.
I mean, I think the biggest jump from 22 to 23 calendar year totals that are in the sales tax sector report is related to automotive. And I would say that's contributing to the
That's a driving
increase.
factor. Thank you.
Yep.
Unintended.
Driving factor, I'm sorry. Didn't mean that one. Any more questions on the board to Bettina? I never asked for a motion. Could I please have a motion for our report tonight?
Accept the report.
To accept?
Motion to accept the financial report.
Second.
Thank you. It is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Bettina. Next would be our village administrator's report.
I have no report this evening.
Thank you. And followed by our attorney's report.
No report tonight.
Thank you. And I will follow suit, and I have no report on my village president's report. Next item is item 11, the acceptance of a correspondence. Please note that all correspondence was delivered to the Village Board of Trustees in the informational report on October 11 and 18, 2024. Is there a motion to accept the correspondence?
So moved.
Thank you. Second,
Second.
is there any discussion about the correspondence? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Voice vote.
It's a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. The motion carries again. Next would be a resolution authorizing the submission of a demolition letter of intent and demolition review questionnaire for the residents located at 33 East North Avenue. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. On September 23rd, 2024, the Village Board authorized the purchase of a single-family home located at 33 East North Avenue. Given one, the acquisition transaction successfully concluded on Monday, October 21st, 2024, and two, none of the possible future uses of a property presently contemplated, including but not limited to multifamily residential, open space parking, it involves any of the existing structures. The Village Board should consider initiating demolition of all improvements on the property. As you will recall, the home is older than 50 years, dated 1915. So the first step in the demolition process involves the submission of a demolition letter of intent and demolition review questionnaire for consideration by the Historic Preservation Commission. Staff has drafted these applications material and is seeking direction from the board.
Simple as that. Yeah.
I looked at the packet, it's pretty clear. Pictures and estimates, and it's a pretty clear case. Are there questions, notions, mentions on the board?
I have a question as to timing, I guess. Are we thinking that this would be imminent, or are we thinking next year, the year after? My reason for asking that is that, next door is the property that we've owned for some time, and we've put that to use, and it's been standing for however many years. And so there must be a distinction. And are we, multifold question, I guess, are we thinking about doing something with that one at the same time? Is there any benefit to doing something at the same time with those two structures, having a plan for the entire location before we take one down? I guess it's many questions in there, but essentially I'd like to understand our thinking on timing.
Yeah, I think the timing is, the property is, as it stands, it's always, risk or liability to the village to have a property that somebody can wander on the property, that nobody's residing or occupying, and, it falls under the maintenance. We'll have to maintain it between now and however long you want to hold on to it. I think it's, the village has assumed, turning over the utilities. We've turned them on in the event that we want to hold on to for some other extended period of time. It is one of the properties that has a lead service line, to the best of our knowledge, and so ultimately we want to remove that if you do decide to keep it for some reason. I think the use of the property is distinctly different from the Walnut House, in that property is, that building is much smaller, simpler to maintain, and it essentially functions as a storage facility for the village's public works equipment and other, I'll say, nonprofit assets. So like the grills that the Lions Club uses for the 4th of July. And that's what's in that facility, and additional trash cans that are used for block parties and barricades that are used. So it's like the downtown's closet, if you will. So I don't think there's any plan at this moment to demo that. And I think if the village, ultimately, it is, the reason why the village acquired this 33 East North was to, land bank it, to hold on to it for some period of time, anticipating that the village would likely solicit proposals to redevelop that property once a vision has been clear. And I think my goal is to try to reach out to the Plan Commission Zoning Board of Appeals through the comp plan development and completion of this update to get some direction on how that property should be used. So far, the conversation about the Walnut House property has been either multifamily or an institutional use. So now that space has grown with this additional land area, does that change? Or if not, let's find out. But have that conversation with the PCZBA, get that direction, recommendation back to the board, and the board can decide then if it wants to issue an RFP and see what interests there are to develop the property ultimately. But I would make, whatever's happening with that house, I don't think the village ever intended to become a landlord and lease the property. It's not in great condition. And like I said, any village property is always a risk that, for maintenance.
So you view the Walnut House as kind of an exception rather than the rule? Like, it's small and simple to maintain and doesn't impose the same kind of risk?
And I mean, the biggest issue facing that property is the village may or may not be looking at applying for an extension on putting in sprinklers, depending on, right, in that house. That's something we have to deal with on that one.
Okay.
Different question, different time.
And I know we weren't the seller, but I take it that there's no one expressed interest in coming and rehabbing it. It's a significant property from a historical perspective. It's not I don't know what the other designation was.
It's not on the short list, right? It's in terms of, the survey identified it as contributing.
Contributing.
But it was not on the short list of the, handful of properties that the HPC is going after to try to get a landmark.
And that house showed extensive water damage in between buckling walls.
Yeah.
Issues on first floor with leaking water from second floor having water damage below the roof. I mean, the pictures were pretty telling.
Yeah.
So the timing of it, should it happen now, should it happen later? I think the sooner the village makes a decision, you'll have time to make a decision. We can, get quotes, but either way, the first step is you have to go through your process, which is to go to the Historic Preservation Commission to get past that hurdle so that the village could actually apply for a demolition permit.
Okay, so
This is step one of-
this is step one, they go back to the HPC, all right, okay.
Thank you. Any more comments on the board?
Nope, makes sense. I mean, I'll just say out loud that though I logically agree that the house is in disrepair, the pictures tell a very clear story. There's a piece inside of me that is very uncomfortable with a rushed demolition of it. And I guess I'd for the historical piece, but I'll tack on the cost of demolition. It is expensive. I guess weighing against the cost to keep the utilities on and I guess liability of the village's responsibility to make sure nothing happens, nobody's going in it, getting hurt, et cetera. I don't know if I have a comment other than I'm saying it out loud. I don't love the idea of demolishing this house so quickly after the village acquired it.
Just to be clear, the historical, the board, they can object, right? That's the next step. They can say, no, we've done our research and we think that there's a value here and we object to the demolition process, and then we talk about that, right? Okay.
Yeah, the way the system is designed is that the only party able to keep a structure or landscape from being demolished or eliminated is the property owner. So you all
Right.
would determine whether, so.
And actually.
Yeah, but basically what they do, the demolition review is, that starts a process of a specific time frame that the Historic Preservation Commission has a window where they can talk about, hey, we think you should try to save this. And then they would actually have to ask you if they wanted to extend that time, so.
Understood. So we're just engaging
It's starting
in the
that process,
Right, so
yes.
we aren't demolishing anything just yet. Okay.
The document, the packet discusses the four-square design in detail and compares it to other properties in town. It makes a point that this is probably not one of the best four-square in the village.
Right.
And doesn't make it that significant. There are multiple other properties that are more significant in the same style. But looking at the pictures and looking at the outside, and I did, the house has serious damages.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate the explanation.
Yep. Are there any comments on this item? Any more comments? Moving forward, it is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. This matter moves to the PCZBA. HPC, sorry. Next is item 13, a resolution repealing and approving a revised tentative and final plat of subdivision for Stonebridge. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. On February 28, 2022, the village board approved 3 items required by the village settlement agreement with SB 2011 LLC, the owner of the Stonebridge development at 136 Green Bay Road, also known as O-391 Johnson Lane. O-391, yes, including a tentative and final plat of subdivision. For various reasons and contrary to the settlement agreement, the plat has not yet been recorded. The owner of the property has now agreed that the plat should be recorded and wants to remove the note on the plat prohibiting direct access to and from Lot 1 to Green Bay Road. Village staff and the village attorney agree that this note is redundant to the protection granted the village in the restrictive covenant that has been recorded against for property pursuant to the settlement agreement. The owner has confirmed that it agrees with the village interpretations. As some of you recall, the new plat maintains the right-of-way of Jansen Lane within the development, which contains roadways and utility systems that are connected to the village infrastructure but have not yet been accepted by the village. And so it's not yet the village property or responsibility. The plat eliminates and re-subdivides the existing Stonebridge lots into the fewer number of lots, 5, permissible under state law, which requires that lots must be contiguous, and by this meaning a single lot cannot span both sides of a street. Future development of a property will likely require further re-subdivision, which would be subject to the village's review. The PCZBA conducted a public hearing to consider the plat of subdivision at its January 19 and February 16 meetings in 2022. At the conclusion of its February 16 meeting, the PCZBA unanimously recommended the village approve the plat of subdivision. The village board subsequently adopted Resolution 2022-9 approving the plat. The attached draft resolution, if approved, will repeal Resolution 2022-9 and approve a new plat amended to remove the note regarding Green Bay Road access. Any comment on the board on this resolution, this cleanup to our current situation?
I want to make sure I understand. This retains the zoning designation it had 20 years ago, right?
Goes back to country estate, yeah.
Does not change that at all.
Estate E2, is it?
E1.
E1. And so the minimum size of the lots there is it 2 acres? I'm trying to remember. But we are choosing to plat just 5 lots rather than.
That was as few as we could do.
I see. We did it as few as we could do, and they're in these funky shapes because of the way in which the street is laid out.
Correct.
So there's no way that this is going to be what they end up looking like, right?
Likely.
But we need to plat it somehow, and it didn't make sense for us to plat it as minimum lot sizes as opposed to this structure.
Yeah,
I take it.
because they don't know where their lots are going to be. And the other reason we wanted it replatted is the old plat was
Yeah.
platted pursuant to the old development agreement, and we wanted to make sure that was no longer of
Yeah,
record. So
which
that-
makes sense. And there's been a plat like the one that's shown in this exhibit in existence, but it wasn't recorded. Is that?
Correct.
But it's not, but it had a note on it that we're agreeing to strike as redundant or irrelevant or,
I'd say redundant,
yeah, that was my understanding from reading the note.
yeah.
This has, the fact that we plat 5 funky-shaped pieces of property will have no impact on the zoning going forward at all.
Correct.
Okay.
I take this as a reset.
I do too, and it makes sense. I guess I have one additional question. What is the plan for the houses that are sitting there? Speaking of houses that could be occupied inappropriately, right? There's houses sitting out on that property. Is there any urgency to doing anything with them? Is there?
When the developer tore down the manor and gatehouse, he was, I think there was some conversation at the time just to take everything down on the site.
Yeah.
And then he just wanted it to move the historics, get rid of those. And so he just said, let's just focus on that and take care of those. Years ago, he looked at moving them within the village to undeveloped lots and got hung up on utility lines that wouldn't bend and bridges that were too narrow. And so kind of chased that, but not successfully. I suspect that they will ultimately be demolished. But I think there is still some value to them, and if
I
a
see.
developer comes forward someday, they may try to use those, and so I think he's holding on to them for those reasons.
I see. Okay.
I read in the text and I knew that the utilities are connected to that land. So what is our stance on that? I mean, do we have water mains going through that are active, or do we have power lines that are active underground? What is, should we cut these? What is the deal with that?
Well, they're private, and that they haven't been accepted yet, right? So those are private improvements on private property.
Okay.
With the exception of the water system, which the village has maintained open for the reasons that there are fire hydrants back there if there was a fire suppression issue, that we wanted those available.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you. Any more questions on the board? I do not see any more questions. Do we have anything online?
If anybody has any questions who is participating online, please raise your hand using Zoom, and you will be recognized.
I just thought of one other question. Will
Go ahead.
these, they currently, I think I counted 50 or 60 maybe PIN numbers for the property as currently platted. Tax ID PIN numbers, I think, is what these are in Exhibit A. Well, I take it then there's some process by which there'll then be
Consolidated.
5 of them? Okay. That will simplify things a little bit, I would think.
Yeah, once this is recorded, the legal description will become, lots A, B, C, D, and E in the Stonebridge of Lake Bluff subdivision.
Okay. And then eventually the tax assessor gets around to
Correct.
revaluing
Signing a new PIN, yep.
these properties as 5-acre properties. Interesting. Okay.
Thank you. Asking again, any more questions? Moving forward, it is a roll call vote.
Yeah, voice vote.
It's a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion carries again. Thank you very much for this item. Next would be our trustees' report. Do any trustee wish to make a report tonight? No. Thank you. And this is followed by item 15, our executive session. So I was informed of a matter to discuss tonight that would be a personal matter. So following this, may I have a motion to go into closed session for the purpose of discussing personal matters pursuant to the,
Appointment to advisory boards.
So that's 2C3, pursuant to 2C3 regarding public officials.
so discussing, following 2C3
The Open Meetings Act,
pursuant, what did you say?
pursuant to the Open Meetings Act.
Pursuant to the pursuant to the Illinois Open Meeting Act, and that upon the adjournment of a closed session, this regular meeting will be deemed to automatically be adjourned by the same vote without the conduct of any further business. Motion to go in session.
So moved. Second.
Thank you. This is a roll call.
Trustee Hatch.
Aye.
Trustee Ryder.
Aye.
Trustee Cole.
Aye.
Trustee Fisher.
Aye.
Thank you very much. And this concludes this open part of a village board meeting. Thank you, anyone here or in attendance, and have a great evening. Thank you.
Recording stopped.